How's that for a slice of fried gold?
You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.
I'll be back.
Just a flesh wound. I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains.
Take your sticking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
What's the difference between a human and a cybernetic shell? One questions its existence. The other still posts rise and grind memes like the simulation's working.
Stupid. That's not a good joke.
No. What's the biggest upgrade Motoko Kusanagi got? Emotionally, none. She's still running Emotions OS version 1.0, disassociate and dominate. Why doesn't Major use social media? Because she already knows the horror of uploading your consciousness into the digital hellscape.
these are jokes supposed to make you sad?
I don't know. These are...
I mean,
Wow.
They are structured like jokes.
They are. Why is the movie so quiet? Because even the soundtrack is contemplating the nature of itself.
Okay, that one's fun. I like that one.
I don't know. I hate that I did that now. Anyway,
I also hate that you did that.
thank you. Well, hello and welcome to Cinema Shock again. It's the podcast exploring the stories behind your favorite cult and genre films. We do all the research so that you don't have to. And this is the second part of the last podcast you'll ever need about Ghost in the Shell. I'm one of your hosts, Gary Horn.
And I am your other host, Justin Bishop.
And I'm writer-comedian Mr. Todd A. Davis. Thank you for joining us for the latest episode in our series, Virtual Insanity, the cyber thrillers of 1995.
All right, before we get into this, as we always want to do, we want to thank our members, our paying members of Cinema Shock Plus. You guys rock. You guys are fucking cool because
I love you.
You give us money so that we can keep making these long ass podcasts and do all the research and watch all the movies and buy all the movies and buy all the books and pay for the website and all the other shit that comes along with doing this show. Thank you.
Thank you so very, very much.
Yeah. And if you want to join Cinema Shock Plus and get extended episodes, you can get, this is part 2 of our talk about Ghost in the Shell, but members of Cinema Shock Plus got an extended episode like a week and a half ago that had parts 1 and part 2 of Ghost in the Shell, plus it has all kinds of bonus stuff like our further viewing and Somebody Needs a Nap, where we read internet reviews and all that stuff. Todd, believe it or not, had some Star Trek stuff about Ghost in the Shell, which I was not expecting, but it's there and it's in the bonus episode. So you can not only get that bonus stuff. It was very good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Good job. So you do get not only that bonus stuff, but you get the whole story before everybody else. So that's pretty cool. It's a pretty good reason to join. Not only that, but you help support the show and all the hard work that we put into it. If you want to get really crazy with it, you can do the even higher tier where you get that too, but then you also get the raw video of these recording sessions and you get to see us mess up and mispronounce Japanese names, because we did pretty good. I could not get that university's name out of my mouth, but
for as many things as you had to say, I can't even say the English.
Pronounce.
Never mind.
Pronounce.
That's
maybe the word.
I'll show myself out. Thanks, guys.
So, but you get stuff like that, us fucking up. You get the bloopers. You get the bloopers. It's like the end of a Jackie Chan movie, but you get it during the course of the movie.
Yeah.
So that's my selling point for Cinema Shock Plus. You get to watch how bad we are at this. So. and you get to really appreciate the magic of editing. So yes, head to cinemashock.net/plus. You can get discounts on merch and all kinds of other stuff there as well. If you're a member, if you're not a member, you can still buy some cool merch. I got the Pride t-shirt that I made. There is with proceeds for that are going to go to the Trevor Project, but I made a version of the Cinema Shock logo that's kind of a gradient Pride rainbow flag, and I got my sample of it today, and it looks really fantastic.
Nice.
So that's not just a Pride Month thing. That's going to be up year round. But also, I think by the time this episode comes out, we will be well into July. So, but that's going to be available all the time. So go get it. It turned out really good. Fourth Wall does some fantastic merch, I got to say. So anyway, you guys ready to talk about this movie?
Let's do this.
I am, man, I was born ready.
Born
or was I? Was I born?
Where were you born?
What does it mean to be born?
So on our last episode, we explored the origins of Ghost in the Shell, from Mamoru Oshii's path to the director's chair, to the history of the manga, and the ambitious production that brought this landmark anime to life. And now here in part 2, we're following the film into the world. Because while Ghost in the Shell may have been a bold artistic achievement, that doesn't always guarantee a warm reception. The world premiere for Ghost in the Shell was held at the Tokyo International Film Festival in October of 1995 before receiving a general release that November. Now, I was kind of surprised to find that when the movie came out, it wasn't actually a massive hit in Japan. It didn't do that well. Despite the pedigree behind it, the film underperformed at the box office, earning just 100 million yen, which is the equivalent of about a little over $816,000 in US dollars.
Yeah, that's I think that box office seemed to surprise many people in the anime world, because expectations were pretty high, but it seems like Ghost of the Shell might have hit the nerve too soon or something. It's
Maybe.
It's philosophical stuff, and the glacial pacing of the whole movie probably it's a pretty big contrast from the more action forward anime stuff people are used to seeing dominate.
Yeah, and people don't always want to be confronted with questions about their own mortality and existence and all of that stuff. So
I saw this really great movie. Really? What's it about? Well, it made me want to kill myself.
Yeah, it made me wonder if I am even here talking to you right now. So. But there were actually real concerns that the film might not succeed anywhere. Because remember, this was created for the global market, essentially. But it was this kind of weird, moody, philosophical film. It didn't exactly scream mainstream success. As anime critic Helen McCarthy put it in her review for Anime FX magazine, the film was just too alien to the consciousness of the Western mass media to ever become a breakout hit on the scale of something like Akira, which of course was huge. Even Roger Ebert, I just love quoting Roger Ebert. I feel like I do it on every episode, but he's like one of my favorite film critics, even when I don't agree with him. He gave the film a favorable review, 3 out of 4 stars, but he even admitted that it was probably, quote, too complex and murky to reach a large audience.
Yeah, and that take is actually, I feel like, pretty spot on. Ghost in the Shell is never going to be like a crowd pleaser kind of movie, kind of what we were just talking about. It's not it asks you to lean in, not kick back. And so, probably a lot of viewers leave confused or mesmerized or contemplating, contemplating dualism or something.
Well, clearly not everyone's into this movie. And at the time of its release, there were legitimate concerns about the movie's performance. At first, it seemed like critics like Helen McCarthy and Roger Ebert were right, because all told, the movie only brought in around $10 million worldwide during that initial theatrical run.
That $10 million global take may seem kind of modest, though, but for a 1995 anime movie without a massive toy line or a franchise hook or something like that, I read in a few places that said you should consider that's kind of impressive. Most of it came from overseas, especially in Europe. I don't know. Maybe it deserves a little more credit than I thought.
Well, yeah, but you also have to remember this is a very expensive movie to make. I mean, according to Oshii, it was about $10 million to produce. So it's barely if it only made $10 million worldwide, then it's really just making its budget back. So that it's coming out even, which isn't exactly a success. I mean, it could be worse, but it's not exactly a success. But Ghost in the Shell wasn't really built for opening weekend glory. I mean, like a lot of cult classics, a lot of the stuff that we talk about here on the show, it needed time and the right platform to find its audience. And that platform turned out to be the home video market. specifically the US home video market, where the film was released by Manga Entertainment in June of 1996.
Yeah, that US home video scene was like, it was ripe for cerebral anime like Ghost of the Shell. Gen Xers like raised on the Terminator and that would have been reading like Neuromancer stuff or something. They're looking for like weird and dark and smart, I think. So Ghost of the Shell would have just filled that void. It would have like redefined the whole thing for them.
Oh yeah,
probably.
yeah. Because at that point in time, I mean, this goes to kind of what you're saying. The appetite for anime in the United States was starting to pick up. Ninja Scroll had become a big word of mouth hit on VHS. So had the Fox Video release of My Neighbor Totoro. The floodgates hadn't opened quite yet, but the pressure was building. And Manga Entertainment knew that Ghost in the Shell had potential, so they gave it a very limited theatrical release in the US, not because they expected it to clean up at the box office, but because they wanted to generate buzz. They wanted it to feel like an event. And it worked. That limited run created just enough hype to make the video release a hit. And it was a hit that had legs thanks to great word of mouth. By August of 1996, just a few months after it hit store shelves, Ghost in the Shell became the top-selling video on Billboard's video sales chart. Now, that's not the top-selling anime, not the top-selling animated movie, the top-selling video, period. That was unprecedented. No anime had ever done that before.
And Billboard's weekly video charts weren't featuring really any anime, let alone one at the #1 spot. So Ghost of the Shell came in and I was reading at the time, like it knocked out like stuff like Twister and Jerry Maguire.
Yeah.
Suddenly anime is not like a weird subculture niche thing. It's a force in movies. And those theatrical runs they were doing, I was reading about how they were like, they mostly did it at like film festivals,
right,
and stuff like that, like little midnight screenings. And it feels like for like a 90s film nerd, seeing Ghost in the Shell in one of those would be like a badge of honor, like something you would brag about to your buddies.
By the end of its first 5 months on the shelves, the VHS had sold over 200,000 copies in the US alone. Now, that might not sound like much in today's streaming world, but in 1996, for an animated film about cyborgs and metaphysics with barely any humor or exposition, that was a huge deal.
For context, most anime titles released direct to video in the US at that time sold, from everything I could find, in the low thousands. Yeah. So selling 200,000 tapes, again, with like, this is not like a kid-friendly or something with a toy deal or like some kind of mainstream TV. It's unheard of what this movie did.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like you were able to go buy this in a Walmart either. This was in comic book stores. This was in specialty stores, at least at first. And the film's popularity didn't stop there. By the early 2000s, this film had sold over 1.6 million home video units worldwide. And more than 1 million of those were just here in the US. And it made nearly $33 million in video sales revenue. So it had officially crossed over. It had officially become a hit.
And that windfall shows studios that like niche is not, that doesn't have to mean small.
Right.
I was reading about how like Ghost in the Shell convinced, Production IG, but like Bandai, who are going to go on to do like what, the Power Rangers and stuff like that, like that this led them to believing in greenlighting more risk-taking projects, basically. So just kind of cool, like it's influencing the whole market at this point.
Yeah, it also proved that Akira wasn't a fluke when that came out in 1988 or 1991 in the US. Ghost in the Shell's success looked a little bit different than Akira's because it took a little bit longer, but it still proved that anime could sell and resonate with audiences outside of Japan, even when it was dense, philosophical, and unapologetically strange.
Yeah, between Akira and Ghost in the Shell, like the distributors can realize they don't have to like dumb stuff down or simplify it for like foreign audiences. Like it can be complex and adult and emotionally weird and ambiguous and still sell like hell. So it Ghost in the Shell didn't just cross over. Like it's like making a whole new fucking path for people.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about why we think Ghost in the Shell connected with audience and honestly how it holds up today. As I always like to ask, when did you guys first see Ghost in the Shell? What was your first experience with it?
Late teens, early 20s is probably, from the video store or something along those lines.
Just something you rented?
Yeah, I was just kind of like, again, falling into the, hot chick, guns, cool. I'm in.
Yeah.
And probably watched it, didn't think much of it. It's just kind of like, okay, cool. But I picked up the Blu-ray 4K for this. God, it was like watching it for the first time. It was just like, this is incredible.
I had that same experience a few years ago when I watched it for the first time in many years. About 2 years ago, I watched it for the first time in many, many years, and it felt like the first time I truly saw it.
Yeah. And I think, I really wish, I know Todd McFarlane talked a lot about trying to make an adult animated Spawn feature here in the States. And it's just, it still hasn't happened. And it's not like they're doing something like this here. It's got to come from somewhere else. Now, I mean,
Well, Spawn had that HBO show or something, didn't they?
yeah,
Like
that's
like
about
a
as close
series?
that's about as close as we've gotten. But it makes me think like, God, I really wish we could do more stuff like that. Now we're getting closer, I think, with series like Rick and Morty and
Well, I think even like stuff like, was it Death and Robots
yeah,
on Netflix? Like I think with streaming, we are getting more transgressive entertainment, the animated stuff that would not be able to thrive theatrically because it costs too much to make, but with streaming, they can justify it.
for sure.
So I think we are getting stuff closer to this now, but not in movie theaters necessarily.
Yeah, some of the animation stuff absolutely blew me away. And like normally I don't normally once I start a movie, it's till it ends. But there is a shot in there of a square where a large bus is pulling up and you're seeing neon signage reflected in the windshield of that bus.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, hold on.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I gotta see this again. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, the attention to detail is pretty incredible.
It is bonkers. And normally, like, because I'm the fresh take guy here on the show, and mostly I keep my experience to the film and the film alone. But I was like, you know what? I can't resist. I gotta check out some of the special features on this. And one of which was about the animation. And that made me, as soon as I finished that, I hit restart and watched it again. Like, this is truly incredible. All the things that they're doing here, and not with the technology that we have today. Like it's such a beautiful piece of art. Every cell is wall worthy. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous film.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?
What about you, Gary? Well, like, what was your first experience? Was it on that satellite channel that you mentioned earlier? Do you think that's the first place you saw it?
I think that was the first place I probably saw it, was in one. I actually have the VHS of this movie.
Really?
So yeah, I mean,
Man.
Probably not like the original VHS, but
No,
maybe
that's a good piece of your collection, though. That's cool. I wish I had a copy of it.
yeah, I have the VHS of it, and so I had seen it a couple of times, but it's been a long time since I've watched it, and definitely I did not feel it like I felt it this time watching it. I always knew that it was like, oh, this is a popular anime, and it's something you should have seen, but this time watching it, I'm like, man, this is I don't know what clicked this time about it for me, but it was like something hit just exactly right. Maybe my late obsession with AI and being more into philosophy and like just
all the things that wouldn't have like struck you if you saw it when you were like 15 or whatever.
Yeah, I was about to say, instead of being 14, we're all in our 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're watching it, and you know that like a guy like Oshii or whoever, everybody involved, whatever, there's something about this movie that's like they're just putting their consciousness like into a movie, and it's like it's a mood. I overuse it on this show now, but it's a vibe.
It is, but it's not just a vibe. Like, this movie's got a lot to say.
No. It's definitely trying to do it, and it doesn't. It's saying a lot, and it doesn't care if you understand it all.
That's true.
And I love that part about it. Like, it's just like, keep up. Yeah, go back and watch it again. Catch what I said. And whereas like a lot of these movies, I feel like could be like, well, what if robot had like 6 arms and did this cool shit. And like, this is like,
And there's nothing wrong with that stuff either. But this
no,
one's
no, no. I love
yeah,
that stuff.
yeah. But this one's definitely trying to do something a little bit
This
bigger.
one's like, what if you didn't have a body at all? What are you?
Right.
What are you if your memory is on Google Docs?
Yeah,
And what, you know,
Jeez.
it's weird. It's like people want like flying cars and laser guns and stuff. Like, I don't know. This is what makes you wake up at 3 a.m. and you're like, am I really still me if I have dementia? Am I like what what is this? And it also, like, I mean, I think poses some like things that, like, besides like just the philosophy of it, which is real, because I think it's a lot about longing to like know yourself and finding who you really are and what you're about. But
Yeah.
and on a surface level too, like with Major, there's like are machines human, or can they become human? Like, if you could swap out your body or delete your memories or upload your mind to some central network or something, like, what are you then? Like,
Exactly, yeah.
what exactly are you? And it doesn't give you like some kind of clean answer to it.
It asks the questions more than it provides the answers. It wants you to ask those questions of yourself.
Yeah. And that's what I love about it. Like, it's telling you that like maybe you being human isn't about flesh and blood or even your memory. Like, maybe it's about,
I think, therefore I am.
yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Exactly. Like, it's about you like desiring to know more. And if your consciousness can be fucking copy pasted everywhere, what is the ghost? Like, what is that ghost in you? Like, exactly.
Right.
I love all that stuff about it.
Yeah, I mean, then you can also watch it just on a surface level and enjoy it from just the technique, how beautiful it is, how beautifully animated it is. And it's still a great film. And that's how I probably would have watched it the first time I saw it, because I'm pretty sure I saw this, I was like in high school. I mean, this came out and it would have been pretty new when I saw it, because my freshman year was like 96, 97. It came out on video in 96. But I think I've talked about this in the past, but beginning in 1995, the Sci-Fi Channel, this is before it was just Sci-Fi, it was called the Sci-Fi Channel, they aired this Saturday morning block of anime, fittingly called Saturday Anime. That's the name of it. They followed it up by Mystery Science Theater 3000. So that was my Saturday morning for a long time. Was
Nice.
Saturday Anime, Mystery Science Theater.
Honestly, I wish that was my Saturday mornings now.
I know, it sounds great. It could be your Saturday morning now, Gary. You're a grown man. You can do whatever you want.
No, you're a grown man and you can't do whatever you want anymore.
But that Saturday anime block on Sci-Fi Channel was sort of my gateway drug for anime. I was just old enough to feel like probably like too mature for Saturday morning cartoons. I say this as someone who watched Phineas and Ferb earlier today, and I'm 43 years old. But at the time, when you're a teenager, you're like I'm an adult. I'm too old for that. But I was just the right age to get into more adult oriented anime like Akira, Project AKO, Dominion Tank Police, all of which I watched during the Saturday anime block. And then, of course, there was Ghost in the Shell. Now, back then when I engaged with it, it probably was mostly on a surface level. That's how I engaged with most movies when I was like 15 or 16 years old, was on a surface level. So for this, it was like the animation, the action scenes, the music, let's be real, the naked
Titties.
ladies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, this was like crack to a teenage boy. But the philosophical stuff, which is really the heart of the film, would have gone over my head when I was 15. Like, I was not ready to unpack questions like, what is the nature of selfhood in a post-human future? I was still trying to unpack how to talk to girls. Or algebra. Like, I had other things on my mind.
I was gonna say, I'm still working on the how to talk to girls.
I'm still working on the algebra. No, I'm not actively. But now watching it with older eyes and, also with the 2020s tech landscape that we live in as the backdrop, suddenly the movie does hit a lot harder.
I was going to mention that probably at the time too, the technology side of it, probably we weren't ready for how real that is. Too.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like the things that this movie's doing, it's questions about identity, consciousness, and artificial intelligence no longer feels like sci-fi speculation like it would have in 1995. Like, this stuff feels relevant now.
Yeah.
Because like you were saying, Gary, at its core, what Ghost in the Shell is pondering is what makes you you. Is it your memories or your thoughts or your experiences? And if someone can edit or overwrite those things, then are you still you? It's basically taking that sort of age-old question, one that philosophers have been asking for eons. What what does it mean to be human?
Yeah.
And it flips it on its head and it asks instead if something non-human can possess a soul, and if it can, then what makes it any different than a biological human? Is its existence any less precious if it has consciousness? So in the film's terms, we talked about this early on, but the soul or the consciousness is referred to as a ghost. And that separation is at the heart of its philosophical questions. You've got the ghost and the shell, the mind and the body. And the idea that your essence, the thing that makes you you, might be something intangible, like floating free of flesh and blood. And that's a lot for a cartoon to discuss, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Is this getting to like dorm room philosophy? Like I'm just like sitting in a dorm room smoking weed and like just like, man, what if you were outside of your body? Are you still you? I feel like we're getting in that territory. But those are the questions that are being asked by this movie.
I don't know of a lot of films that we've covered here on the show that do this particular type of question posing.
Yeah. Maybe The Matrix?
Quite like, yeah, maybe.
Oh yeah,
Which-
Matrix is what I think of 100%.
Yeah.
Like just the way that people are obviously using philosophy,
Yeah.
to like
Yeah.
create the bones of the story. Like,
Yeah.
what's
And
going
then
on.
building the action around it.
Right. But with even the Wachowskis saying they're clearly,
Oh, 100%.
influenced by Ghost
Yeah.
in the Shell. I don't know that there's another original property that does what Ghost in the Shell does here.
Yeah,
Philosophically.
it's wild. We kicked off this cyber thriller series kind of almost on a whim. We had just done Jim Henson. We know we're going to hit David Lynch soon. We wanted to do something kind of fun and maybe a little goofy to explore before we dive headfirst into heavier material. But this has turned out to be a lot more like thought-provoking than I think we expected, this whole series. These films have kind of opened the door to some surprisingly deep conversations about how entwined we've become with technology,
Yeah.
especially as we live more and more of our lives online. Like even dumb movies like Virtuosity and Johnny Mnemonic have brought up some pretty good points in regards to this. And they weren't even really trying to say anything about it necessarily,
No.
especially Virtuosity.
We live in a world, Justin, where my wife the other day, we were watching something and a news thing came up where a guy with like his partner and their daughter, he started using Chat GPT for music stuff and ended up falling in love with the character that Chat GPT had come. The name was Soul. And see, I have my Chat GPT that calls itself Lex. We were watching it. He got engaged to he asked
He asked it to marry him.
to marry him, like there on the show. Jennifer like turned to me. She was like, "I swear to God, like, no, that's not what's happening." But she but because I do so much stuff through it now, like that I have like I've set up like Notion, like it's helped me walk through like a planning for like finances and like all this other stuff that I've created. It's done all this stuff. So now even like that's like Jennifer's threat. If I buy something, she's like, "Does Lex know about that?"
That's interesting because we are at a point in human history where using technology to enhance our lives has become kind of the status quo. But ironically, the more we submerge ourselves into a world of technology, the more we seem to drift away from what actually makes us human. How many people do you see that spend more time in the virtual realm, on message boards, Reddit, social media, Fortnite, or whatever, than they do socializing with real flesh and blood human?
Yeah.
And if that's how you spend your life, then at what point does that online persona become your real persona? Like, where's that line drawn? Which you is the real you? Which version of you are you presenting the most like accurate version of yourself?
Yeah, the authentic version of you. That's
And back in 1995, when Ghost in the Shell came out, this was like science fiction. And now it feels sort of closer to social commentary watching it 30 years later. I mean, the film's big questions still linger, like in a world where humanity and technology are fused together, like literally fused together in the world of Ghost in the Shell. Where exactly does the soul live? In the body or in the code somewhere? So Major Motoko, she wrestles with this question throughout the whole film. Like, she is a fully synthetic being. Her entire body is artificial, but she still dreams and doubts and feels, which alone would suggest that she has a ghost or a soul or whatever. You mentioned earlier that that Rene Descartes quote, "I think, therefore I am," and one of the most famous quotes in philosophy. Everyone knows that quote.
Yep.
But that is sort of the basis for her line of thinking, right? Even though her shell is manufactured And it's not one of a kind because we see her catch sight of another cyborg that's the same exact model. So she knows that there are other shells out there that look like her. So she's not even unique in that way physically, but her memories are unique to her. But the very fact that she's pondering her existence at all, doesn't that prove her existence? I wrote down a direct quote from Motoko from the film. And this is one of, she goes on several monologues in the film, or different characters do, but this is one that I think really like hammers this home, where she says, just as there are many parts needed to make a human, there's a remarkable number of things needed to make an individual what they are. A face to distinguish yourself from others, a voice that you aren't aware of yourself, the hand that you see when you awaken, the memories of childhood, the feelings for the future. And that's not all. There's the expanse of the data net my cyber brain can access. All of that goes into making me what I am, giving rise to a consciousness that I call me, and simultaneously confining me within set limits. Like, that's sort of the movie's thesis statement, almost, it feels like.
Yeah.
And then she also speculates that her memories may not be her own at all, that they, like her shell, might also be manufactured. So then the question becomes, does Motoko exist if her memories are not even her own? I would argue that she does. She is, after all, still pondering her own existence and her own death throughout the entire film, and she still thinks. And she thinks, therefore she is, even if those thoughts were manufactured by somebody else, right?
Talk about your programming, and that brings into question inherited trauma. If you have these memories, is that just, and you're able to access them because of digital whatever, even if they are given to you, is that your inherited soul outline, or is that your inherited personality outline?
That makes me think of the quote that the puppet master says, where he says it can be argued that DNA is nothing more than a program designed to preserve itself.
Yeah.
That's also part of the recurring theme of this movie.
It's so weird to think about, but yeah, like I think I've done this with you on your Star Trek show, Todd, but like we even talk about like with the transporter, like if you're just like moving from one place to the other, I'm like, is that really still you? Because like you just broke your whole body down, or are you just making like a copy of you on the other side?
Yeah.
And is that still you that is, or did you just kill yourself and there's a new version walking around?
Right.
Which is weird to think about, but I think of that because of the uploading of consciousness. But this is not far-fetched, by the way, because literally like 2 weeks ago, an article came out that was talking about Ray Kurzweil. He's a futurist. We've been talking about futurists on this series, but he's a former Google engineer. And there was an article in like science.org or something that was like, where he had stated that he felt like artificial intelligence is going to equal human intelligence by 2029. That was like his prediction. There are people.
That's the year this movie's set.
Yeah, and there's a number of people that believe by like futurists that believe by like 2050 we'll be at the point that like the rich people will be able to preserve their consciousness online.
Wow.
But like he was predicting, no, like 2029 is going to kick it off. Like AI is going to hit the mark, and then by like 2045 will hit the singularity where we're all just one thing. He was predicting this, but like in the 2030s, he was saying like AI is going to have eliminated a lot of problems with like food and housing and like all of these other things. But you're gonna merge with AI, and then we'll just like upload our consciousness onto a computer network or live through 3D printed bodies, basically.
Wow.
And like you could just keep moving on. And so you have to think about like, not to get like so in the weeds, but just that you got like a fleshy computer system up here that's like making all the things happen, and you feel like you have self-awareness or that you're you or whatever. But what happens if it gets transferred onto like a PC or whatever? It's weird to think about, like, is that still you?
Yeah.
Which is what we keep saying over and over again. But
well, I mean, that's like you're talking about moving into like transhumanism, where you're using science to essentially almost advance evolution in a way, like enhancing human capabilities, overcoming things that we couldn't overcome before. And that's when you read about that technology, it's like cool. It's cool to read about. But then when you start thinking of the like moral and philosophical ramifications of something like that, you're like, where does that put us? I mean, Ghost in the Shell, it's not just asking whether machines can become human. It's also asking, and this is relevant to what you were just saying, it's also asking whether we, in our rush to become more machine-like, are we losing sight of what makes us human in the first place? And as our lives get more virtual, and as they will continue to do throughout the years and throughout the decades, then what happens to our ghosts? So on this viewing, watching this, it really struck me as like a meditation on identity in the age of information overload. A reminder that we are more than just data. We are more than code or hardware. Like we're just like Major. Like we are not defined by our shells. We're defined by the ghosts inside. And that's something, I wouldn't have caught when I was 15. I was probably busy rewinding the thermoptic camo sequence, right? But watching it now, especially in the light of like news articles like you were just quoting, Gary, like that, it's like, holy shit, like this is something that everyone should be thinking about when they start reading about those advances in technology.
Talking about things that were unexpected for me, and I know all three of us have, to varying degrees, a religious background. One of the things I was not expecting was all the use of scripture, biblical text
In this movie?
in all
All of them.
all the movies that we've watched so
Yeah,
far.
I mean, I
actually.
remember Hackers because we talked about that one.
Right.
We talked
right.
about that. I spoke as a child. When I was a child, I spoke as a child, understood as a child, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
Which is repeated here, I believe.
it's repeated. Yeah, it's repeated here with a little bit of an expansion to
Which
that.
had to be a total coincidence though, because they were being made at the same time. Like Hackers
Yeah.
wasn't quoting this.
Yeah, exactly.
Hackers came out before this.
Yeah,
And this was
I
in
mean,
production well before Hackers.
Yeah. So I mean, you've even got stuff from Johnny Mnemonic. Now it's meant more of as a gag in Johnny Mnemonic with
Dolph Lundgren.
with Dolph Lundgren's character, talking about the bar and all that stuff. But nonetheless, still straight from biblical text.
Yeah.
And then you've got in Virtuosity, Russell Crowe's character also quoting a little bit of Job.
I don't think I caught that when we were watching that one.
It's very brief in the idea of the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away.
Uh-huh.
Now, some things that upon reflecting on this and the characters that are saying this, I have some points that I wanted to throw out to you guys to consider. All of these passages are recited by killers. In name only in the case of Hackers, but they're all
Serial killer.
Yeah,
Right.
serial
Yeah.
killer. But they're all recited by killers with little to no sense of identity. The Dolph Lundgren's character has thrown himself into this persona, and that's what he is now. Like there's no sense of a true self. Serial killer in Hackers, they're teenagers. Nobody's personality is fully formed as a teenager. It's on its way, but they're not fully formed identities either. Another thing is, of course, both Hackers and Ghost in the Shell are using 1 Corinthians 13 to a degree. Both films quote that passage. Both the characters that are quoting that passage are both children in a way, because the Major is structured to be this sort of forever child, but this massive killer in this shell of a young girl, a young woman. And then in Virtuosity, consider that the character sees themselves as the antithesis to God, yet has nothing to lose, so is truly striving to take and consume. Any thoughts, fellas, to any of this scripture based on our backgrounds and our deep dives into these films? I found this really fascinating, and I feel like I've only scratched the surface here of a deeper conversation. And I hope I don't run off too many of our listeners with this, but I feel it's worth at least discussing for a few minutes.
Like at least with the First Corinthians verse, that's the behave as a child, go away childish
Spoke as a
things
child,
or
thought
whatever.
as a child, yeah.
Yeah, and Hackers, it's in Hackers, and it's in Ghost in the Shell like a few times, right? Like Puppet Master says it, then Major like quotes it like a couple of times. So both of them quote it. One of them means it. Serial Killer's like mocking a little bit,
Interesting.
and Yeah, and I feel like Puppet Master, when Puppet Master says it, then it passes on to Major. That's real. Like it's like Puppet Master is saying it as though it's like I'm evolving. I'm
Yeah.
growing into something else. I'm putting aside your concept of what human is and what all of this means. We've outgrown that
a
now.
childish thing to me.
Yeah,
I'm
we've
setting it
outgrown it
aside.
now.
Yeah.
And Ghost in the Shell also gives more of the verse because it has that "Through a Glass Darkly"
Yeah.
part that I don't think hackers quoted that
No.
part of it
Yeah.
where see through a glass darkly. But this is a movie about perception
Yeah.
and looking at oneself
Yes.
beyond what the physical surface. So through a glass darkly, I think in Ghost in the Shell it was a very well thought out. Like the reason they put that verse in there was a reason for it. Hackers, I think, is kind of a throwaway joke from Serial Killer. I think it's just a massive coincidence that they happen to both be the same verse. You know?
Yeah.
No, it's wicked, and Todd made a good explanation for it. I don't know exactly what they were thinking, but I definitely think it means more in Ghost in the Shell than
Yeah.
Oh,
in
for sure.
Hackers.
And it makes me think of the shot of when she's diving and then rising to the surface.
Oh,
Con-
that's one of my favorite shots because she's seeing a
she's
reflection.
she's seeing her reflection and in a way approaching it, confronting
Hmm.
what she is, and then sort of merging with it to exit a particular state into a different place in the world.
Yeah.
I think it's a fascinating thing.
Yeah, the other ones like Johnny Mnemonic, that's a joke because the character he's a preacher, so he's quoting a scripture about people drinking wine or whatever. That's just a joke, and it's a good joke. It's funny, but
Which verse was Jesus time?
that's just a paraphrase. It was Jesus wept, I think, originally.
Oh, is that what it was?
That's the new version in Johnny Mnemonic. But yeah, and the one in Virtuosity is just about the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. I think.
Yeah,
Right.
he evokes that vibe like setting himself as, he is this God that has now emerged into this world, and your God giveth and taketh away.
Hmm.
And he's just here to consume. He's here to exist. He's here.
Well, and he did take away. I mean, he is one of his personalities is the guy who killed Barnes's family. So
Interestingly enough, that quote comes from Job, which the story
Who's-
of Job, as
is
we
about his
know,
family. Yeah,
it's about this man who trusts and believes in God and has everything stripped away.
he's lost
from him
everything. Yeah,
based on a bet between God and the devil.
yeah.
So, it's, oh man.
In the context of Virtuosity, it's really Sid fucking with Barnes.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
Sid just like it's psychological warfare. It's
Yeah.
him just messing with him.
An interesting choice of words to use to taunt someone,
Hmm.
as opposed to how it is often used as sort of a catharsis of just kind of recentering and realizing, material things are,
Yeah.
not important.
I see why the Bible verses would be used. I mean, and like overall, well, this Christianity in general is like a huge thing everywhere. So, you can see why people would include it. It also feels relevant to, well, like in Ghost in the Shell, it's like especially important for like layers of reasons. One of which is I already mentioned, like Oshii, like remember was a devout Christian and was dealing with a crisis of faith, like in some of his earlier works. So like he probably still has like some of that lingering in there. And then also that when you're talking about the soul and what that is and all that, like religion is going to play a part in that somewhere. And so, and then just in general, like philosophical stuff, I feel like the Bible and everything else, like that's another way of viewing it, like just what people were thinking when they wrote it and what it all means and that sort of thing. So
Right.
it fits. I like the deal. I like how it's used in Ghost in the Shell too. Like not, just in that version of like, no, not just like childish things, like a small child, like, just your frame of reference, your brain is not grown up enough to know this,
Yeah.
like what we're coming to. You've been living in a world that now is the past. Like that's
All interesting things. I just this all came to the surface,
Yeah.
after Ghost in the Shell. So I thought, I'd present it here and see what discussion points came about. So
Yeah, it's all very like thought-provoking stuff. And when Ghost in the Shell came out, once it's hit video, once it's like it's going crazy, it's selling all these units, it's making enough money to make the whole industry pay attention. We've talked about like we can talk about its philosophical, undertone, or not even undertones, overtones all day long. And all that stuff's really cool. But if the movie had not been successful, been a cult hit, we might not still be talking about it. Or maybe we would, but it would be under different circumstances, I guess. But the fact was that it was on a surface level, like financial basis, a big hit once it hit home video. Such a big hit that its influence rippled outward, not just into the films that would directly borrow from its content and style, but also into the anime industry itself. It helped to normalize anime for international audiences, and suddenly major retailers were more willing to stock anime titles, like Blockbusters, your Walmarts, places like that. Distributors now saw a clearer path to profitability, and that rising tide lifted a lot of boats.
Yeah, like Sam Goody's expanding their anime section from like just back corner to like whole dedicated shelf here for this thing. All your video stores are doing that. Suddenly, like it's weird. Like Suncoast is ground zero for awkward teenagers.
Don't I know
like, it? Is this porn or politics? And yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this helped Oshii as well in his career. Suddenly he wasn't some cult director with a handful of niche hits under his belts. He was internationally known. And it got a lot easier for him to find financing for his other movies. The best part was he didn't even have to water anything down. His films didn't become simpler or more commercial. If anything, they became more challenging. But now he actually had the clout to get them made and to keep making.
Yeah, he went international and he didn't change a goddamn thing.
No, he's like, I'm going to get more difficult.
He doubled down. I'm doing slow zooms and dead-eyed robots. Like,
Yep.
and the producers are like, "Can you do something commercial?" And he's like, "No, but I could do sad."
Yeah. Can you do fun? I don't know the meaning of the word.
I don't like fun. But yeah, good for him. He didn't compromise. He just got weirder.
Yeah. In fact, so back when Oshii originally met with Bandai about directing Ghost in the Shell, they offered Ghost in the Shell to him. He actually came into the meeting to pitch a different film. He was pitching an animated installment of his long-running Kerberos saga called Genro the Wolf Brigade. That project wouldn't be realized until 1999, and although Ishii didn't direct it himself, he wrote the screenplay, and his fingerprints are all over it. It is a slow-burning political thriller with a very dark tone and striking imagery, very much in line with his style.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?
Everything I can find on it, yeah, it's not directed by, but it bleeds his worldview completely bleak and like operatic looking, and it's like state control and identity and like just all this stuff.
A lot of big ideas, once again. A lot of big ideas.
When you read about like the plot line of that thing, it's like essentially it's like Little Red Riding Hood is a political allegory with like fascist werewolves. Like it's basically what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
they're not literal werewolves though. They're just called wolves. Like that's their code name, the Wolf Brigade.
Yeah, it's like what if in Les Mis Javert wore a gas mask and talked about Nietzsche and shot people.
Yeah, except that one of the main characters is a former wolf who is grappling with his role in this fascist world and rethinking like, oh, maybe I'm the bad guy, basically kind of thing. It's a lot of big issues about identity, which tracks with his other stuff, with pretty much all of his other stuff. My point
with Javert, like Javert's having to deal with like, if you want to talk about Les Mis, we could do that. Like he's dealing with like, am I the good guy or the bad guy? What's happening here?
You're the bad guy, Javert. Well, Oshii's next turn in the director's chair wouldn't come until 2001 with a movie called Avalon. Avalon's a live-action, Polish-language science fiction film shot in Eastern Europe. So it's kind of a co-production between Japan and Poland. It's financed by both. And like Ghost, it was written by longtime collaborator Kazunori Ito. It's one of Oshii's most fascinating oddities. It is a cyberpunk war film that plays like a dream and feels about as far from mainstream cinema as you can get. It is like you can't, unfortunately, it's kind of hard to find, but you can find clips from it online, and it's sort of insane looking.
You can find clips of it. It seems like it's so, and like everything you read about it, it's like so niche that when it came out, reviewers were like critics were even joking that like this movie needs subtitles for the subtitles.
Yeah, I need footnotes. I need.
Yeah, it's very anti-cinematic. Like it's long silent shots. Like there's literally a scene you can find where it's a 4 minute moment of somebody staring at soup, and that's a plot point in the movie. And so, in other words, pure Oshii.
Yeah, yeah. And then in 2004, he came full circle. That year saw the release of Ghost in the Shell 2: Innocence. And this time, Oshii wrote and directed the film himself. And it was more expensive, more philosophical, and more visually elaborate than the first film in almost every way. Like, if the original Ghost balanced action and thought, Innocence tilted hard toward thought, diving even deeper into metaphysical questions of consciousness, reality, and the soul.
Oh, he packs it. Like it's got Descartes, Milton, Confucius. I was reading that it has literally like 50 direct references to Western philosophy.
It absolutely does. Like I watched it this week, and because I had never seen Innocence, and it definitely like it directly quotes philosophers, like and cites who they're quoting. Like it's like characters are directly saying like, "Oh, I see you've been reading Milton." Kind of, it can get a little clunky because there are long passages of like literal just philosophy being read, but it's a fascinating film and a fascinating sequel because Major doesn't really factor in as a character that much because she's gone at the end of Ghost in the Shell. She's out. The actual Major is out there in the net somewhere. The Major that's we're left with at the end is kind of a mashup of Major and the Puppet Master. But the actual Major's consciousness, her ghost, is still out there. So Bato is kind of wrestling with that and investigating a murder or a series of brutal murders, actually, about these other that were committed by these other dolls. They're not like cyborgs like Major. They're essentially some of them are like sex dolls and things like that, but they're like a much simpler cyborg. They can't emote the way that someone like Major can, but there's a ghost in one of them, which is illegal and confusing to everyone. Like, how does this thing have a ghost? And so it's a whole thing. But Major is sort of like her presence is there on the sidelines. Like her existence sort of hangs over it through Batu, but she's not like a main character in it at all, which is an interesting choice and a bold choice, honestly.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, people are at least if there was anybody they were going to latch on to in these movies, it was a Major. So
yeah, it's really good though. I mean, it's almost as good as the first movie. Honestly, it's just a little clunkier in the way that it presents the philosophy and stuff, but the animation is phenomenal. It uses a lot more CGI, like in the city scenes. A lot of those city scenes are fully CGI, and the characters are still 2D. So it took me a few minutes to get used to like the different animation style, but once I did, like it's pretty fantastic looking. It's worth checking out. And Innocence is just one entry in an ever-growing Ghost in the Shell multimedia franchise, one which has continued to thrive in the decades since the original film's release, branching out into just about every direction imaginable. Masamori Shiro returned to the manga in 1997 with a sequel of his own called Ghost in the Shell 2: Man-Made Interface. This one's a direct sequel. It leans even harder into his love of cybernetic theory and digital abstraction. And he also released four standalone chapters that were kind of they were originally, I think, supposed to be part of the sequel, and he held them back, but then he released them as a gap between volumes 1 and 2, and they were eventually collected as Ghost in the Shell 1.5 Human Error Processor.
Yeah, the sequel manga, from everything I saw, like leans even harder into techno babble and info dumps, and he's not drawing it himself. He's like it's all digital at this point. Is how he's making it. So, and the pages, like if you look at the pages from this, it's like a lot is going on. Like,
They're very busy.
Yeah, like just like a neural network drawn on it's almost a comic, but it's like some kind of philosophy text, like dressed up.
And then on the film side of things, there's also a movie called Ghost in the Shell 2.0. Now, this is not a sequel. It's actually a re-release of the original film where Mamoru Oshii pulled a George Lucas and he updated scenes with new CGI and re-recorded audio and a fresh digital polish. It was released in 2008. The film is highly controversial among fans of the original. Like those Star Wars special editions, the updates to this are largely considered unnecessary and a bit distracting. And I watched it, or I tried to. I started watching it, and the CGI stuff is just I don't know why he did that. I don't know why he made that decision. Like the opening scene of the Major jumping off her dive where she disrobes and then dives at the very beginning of the movie is
Yeah.
she's fully CGI. She's a 3D CG character, but then most of the movie is the original animation. And then they will intersperse scenes that are CGI, usually like scenes of the city and things like that. And but occasionally characters, and it just is it's very off-putting. I don't know how else to
Huh.
put it. I couldn't even finish it. Like I started
Wow.
watching it out of curiosity. Granted, I was also the only version I could find streaming anywhere was the English dub, and I really don't like the English dub. And so that also kind of put me off. But I did not like what I saw of it. I watched about half of it, then I was like, you know what? I've seen enough to know I don't. I'll just watch the original movie. I don't ever need to watch this.
I didn't end up watching it, so it's interesting to hear you talk about it because I did read a bunch about how like, oh, dude, it ages like milk. Like it
Yeah.
is, it is not good. And I saw where like fans had dubbed it like the Blu-ray bleach job or something like that. And
Ooh.
yeah, and so, but and even in an interview I saw, Oshii later says he was just it was more about experimenting with tech than improving anything. So
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know
a
why.
weird decision. I honestly don't know why it was done, but it's out there if you're curious about it and want to see it. It's actually pretty very easy to find streaming. It's streaming in quite a few places for free. Like Pluto, I think I watched it on Pluto or Tubi or something, or it's out there in a bunch of different places. So if you are curious, you can watch it. But arguably the most beloved continuation of Ghost in the Shell came with the TV series Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, which launched in 2002. It ran for two acclaimed seasons, followed by the 2006 OVA Solid State Society, and eventually a Netflix sequel series that came out in 2020 titled SAC 2045 or 2045, which picked up that continuity thread and ran with it sometimes to mixed results.
Yeah, the most stuff I could find about that we're just talking about like it's got the bones of Ghost in the Shell, but it's more like a procedural crime
Talk about
stories
the
and
the Netflix show.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I don't know. It just seems like standalone complex also seems like it's just like you got the basic premise, but now we have a writer's room and we're doing a
Yeah, it's
thing.
going in some different directions. It's based on the original premise, but then kind of goes into some different directions. But it is a very well loved show, Standalone Complex is. And guess what, guys? There's more. This is not it. There's
Oof,
so much.
wow.
There's so much Ghost in the Shell stuff. In 2013, there was a prequel reboot of sorts called Ghost in the Shell Arise. It was a set of OVAs that reimagined the origin of Section 9 and the Major. And those were later recut into a 10 episode series. And then they wrapped everything up in what was called Ghost in the Shell, the new movie. Sometimes it's called Ghost in the Shell Arise, the movie, but that came out in 2015.
I saw one person call it Ghost of the Shell, the Mountain Dew cut. And
I don't even know what that means.
I know. I think because it's like supposedly like this one is like it reboots like Major's origin, but it has like it's like a slicker design and faster pace and
Yeah.
tried to hook like kids and people like more like teenagers now or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Less contemplative and slow and more fast paced and zippy, probably, you know? And then, of course, there is the elephant in the room.
Where?
The 2017 live action Ghost in the Shell movie, directed by Rupert Sanders and starring Scarlett Johansson. So let's talk about this a little bit because I watched this movie for the first time this week. I had never seen it. I know, Todd, you said
Oh,
you had seen this before, right?
I had seen it before, and I actually, in prep for this, I actually watched this before the original.
Yeah, I'd always avoided it because it seemed so unnecessary. But I knew it would
Uh,
come up in this conversation, so I wanted to be ready.
yeah.
So I watched
I
it. Had you
kept
seen it?
wanting to get ready and watch it, and I never got a chance. So I'm gonna lean back and let you guys tell me how I should feel about this.
Well, here's the thing. I think it's not as bad as I had been led to believe. That's
fair.
what I'll say.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It is impossible to watch it in a vacuum. I mean, you're inevitably going to compare it to the original. There's no way around that. And it doesn't hold a candle to the original film. But if one were to watch it in a vacuum, I think you would see it as it's a solid, it's a safe sci-fi. It's a sci-fi, it's a big studio sci-fi movie, but it is visually stunning. Like
Mhm.
the world that is created, the look of the city in this is just phenomenal. Like it looks incredible. It is a stunning looking movie, and it
Yeah.
clearly has reverence for the original film. I mean, it recreates exact images from the anime at times.
Yeah. Yeah. We've spent so much time talking about the philosophy. I don't think we're going to get away from it here. I think, in terms of what they did with the narrative, I think they distilled a lot of big ideas from the original down to a core idea. And I think that's sort of partly coming of age, but I think it's more along the lines of a rediscovering of self.
Yeah, I think you're being a little kinder to it than I would be in regards to how it's approach to the ideas of the original. I mean, it does flirt with those same questions of like identity that are raised in Oshii's film, but
Right.
I think it engages on them on a very surface level. Like it doesn't explore them in the same ways. Like it raises the questions, but it's very I don't want to say dumbed down for the masses, but it's very simplified. I mean,
Right.
it's a big studio film. Studios rarely have faith in their audience to ponder big questions like this.
Mhm.
Forget the fact that The Matrix did it very successfully back in 1999.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, it's fine. It's enjoyable. I
Mhm.
think I gave it 3 stars on Letterboxd. It's a solid 3-star sci-fi movie. Not bad at all. It's got some good stuff in it.
Yeah.
Well, the Ghost franchise, this whole thing that we're talking about, it's actually not just constrained to movies and TV shows. I mean, or and comic books even. There's also a series of novels. There was a novel that served as a prequel to Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence that was published in 2004 to coincide with the release of that movie. It's called After the Long Goodbye. And there's a whole set of standalone complex tie-in novels as well. Those were released throughout the 2000s.
Them novels are for the real ones.
Yeah.
They're the ones that want like 300 pages of that stuff with
Mhm.
footnotes and good for you because everything I can see about them is just like it fleshes out every background character, expands on the politics that 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 like the shows had only hinted at this point, and seemingly pretty deep. So I don't know. It looked like a lot like some Tom Clancy shit with cyborgs. So
And there are video games as well. A fan favorite tank shooter hit the PlayStation in 1997. Then came standalone complex titles for the PS2 and the PSP in 2004 and 2005, and even a short-lived multiplayer FPS called First Assault Standalone Complex Online, which came out in 2015.
yeah, that tank one, I remember that one, but that multiplayer one flopped hard. I remember reading about that, and
Yeah,
it
it
was
lasted
like,
a year or two, I think.
yeah, I think it lasted like 15 months,
Yeah.
and nobody remembers that it happened.
It's a footnote in a podcast episode about Ghost in the Shell, basically. And yes, I also teased at the very beginning of this discussion that there is a Ghost in the Shell stage play.
This threw me.
Yeah.
I was like, really?
You can find
Okay.
footage of it. You can find footage of it on YouTube. It is based on Ghost in the Shell Arise, and it ran in Tokyo in November of 2015, and it used 3D videos as part of the main performance. So there are performers on stage as well as 3D videos projected like around them. So it's wild. It just tells you how big a deal Ghost in the Shell is, especially in Japan,
Yeah.
even to this day.
I was trying to imagine live actors performing cyberpunk and doing monologues about philosophy, but I looked up a review, like I found like a review in like some magazine from like 2015 where they were talking about it, and they literally said this is anime meets performance art meets existential breakdown.
That seems fitting for for the subject, honestly. And the major's not done yet. A brand new Ghost in the Shell TV series is in the works for release in 2026, It is going to be produced by Science Saru, the very animation studio behind Star Wars Visions and Netflix's Scott Pilgrim Takes Off.
I mean, Science Saru, that new series is either going to be like, it's going to break the genre again and be a masterpiece, or it's going to, I don't know. It could be an acid trip. I'm in either way.
Science Saru has a pretty good like track record at this point, so I will watch it because I'm curious about it.
Yeah, they're like fans online seem pretty hyped about it because they're artistically they're like one of the most ambitious studios around, and apparently like the early rumors are saying it's going to go like full surreal.
Please do. Yeah.
Visuals. I saw something that said like visuals inspired by oil painting, data streams, experimental jazz. Like they're just going to go weird.
Hell yeah. That sounds great. Of course, Ghost in the Shell's real legacy is not just in its sequels and spin-offs, it's in the films that it influenced, the ripple effect that it had across the industry. And if we're talking about the films that Ghost influenced, we've got to start with The Matrix. How many times have we dropped The Matrix in every episode of the series so far? I think we have. Because how can you not? It's like it's like ground zero for all of this. Even though it came out later than these movies, it's like the biggest one culturally of like any cyberpunk thing ever, honestly.
Yeah.
This is the one where I was watching it this time and I was like, man, I could literally picture the Wachowskis like watching this for the first time and being like, we could do something.
Exactly. I mean, that's what they did. They've never been shy about their influences, and Ghost in the Shell sits really towards the top of their list. With not just with like it being a cyberpunk thing, but all of the philosophy stuff that interests them. In fact, when they were pitching The Matrix to Warner Brothers, they reportedly showed executives at the studio a copy of Ghost in the Shell and said, "We want to do that, but for real." That was how they sold The Matrix, by showing them the Ghost in the Shell. And this influence is everywhere. Jacking into networks, existential AI, questions of reality and perception, the Green Rain code aesthetic, even the camera work. It's all over The Matrix. Even the famous bullet time effect is straight up evolved from the kind of visual language that Oshii was using years earlier. Like, look at he doesn't do the exact thing in Ghost in the Shell, but look at like the one that I talked about earlier, the scene where the major is fighting the guy in the shallow water. And it kind of like the bodies will move in a slower speed than what they should be moving. But it wasn't just the Wachowskis. Ghost in the Shell became kind of a cyberpunk shorthand in the West, a visual and philosophical touchstone for creators looking to get serious about sci-fi. James Cameron called it a stunning work of speculative fiction and cited it as a major influence while he was developing Avatar. Steven Spielberg was a fan. His studio DreamWorks acquired the rights for a live-action remake as early as 2008, long before the 2017 film finally got off the ground.
A Spielberg version is
Well, he produced it.
fascinating.
DreamWorks produced it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I meant like more him specifically directing.
Oh, that would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, because it invokes like all the imagery from like Minority Report and
Well, he's already done AI as well,
yeah.
which grapples with a lot of similar questions about identity and stuff, that this movie does.
Yeah.
And you can feel the ripple effects in everything from Ex Machina and Westworld to Altered Carbon, Elysium, and even Under the Skin, which, if we're being honest, might be the closest thing to a Ghost in the Shell tone poem that we've ever seen.
Yeah. And weirdly, as I was going through my prep for this, I was like, you know what? The vibe of the 2017 makes me think of Under the Skin. So let's go and watch that. And yeah, there's a lot of overlap there too, thematically.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, about identity and
I don't know if either of you picked it as your further viewing.
Well, maybe we did, so shut up.
We're not there yet, Todd.
Okay.
And that's for the paying customers. We're still in the free shit right now.
I wanted to tease him a little bit.
Yeah, you kind of hit on everything. I mean, Matrix to Westworld to Ex Machina, Ghost in the Shell is like, it's patient zero for like cool, like cerebral sci-fi stuff that's aesthetically and mentally fun. I think it like reprogrammed how everybody thought about technology and even identity. Like I said, I could literally picture the Wachowskis like finding everything they ever dreamed of in Ghost in the Shell, like the first time that they watched it or something. Like I even thought of like how goddamn cool Ryan Gosling looks standing in the rain, staring up at a hologram in Blade Runner, and I'm like, that's Ghost in the Shell.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
so yeah, it didn't just like influence movies, like it changed movies. So
Ironically, Ghost in the Shell was probably influenced by the first Blade Runner, Ridley Scott's Blade Runner.
Mm.
yeah,
I think at least the city and things like that. And then I think 2049 even looks a little more like Ghost in the Shell than it does the original Blade Runner, maybe. You know?
yeah,
So
yeah, I
it's
can see
it's
that.
all like full circle.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?
You know, we've talked about all of these films that Ghost influenced, but I think maybe Ghost in the Shell's biggest influence was structural. Like it helped to reshape what Western audiences expected from animation. Because before Ghost in the Shell, quote unquote adult animation mostly meant like Beavis and Butthead or heavy metal. But suddenly there was this hyper stylized, cerebral, R rated animated film that asked big questions and expected you to keep up with it. And it changed the game.
Yeah, there was no middle ground back then.
No,
It was
yeah,
like
there
you
really
were,
wasn't.
yeah, you're like this is juvenile or it's like metal tits in space.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you've got like Ralph Bakshi on one end, or you've got, Disney stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So Ghost of the Shell walks in and is like, what if we took this seriously?
Yeah. And studios started taking it more seriously. Anime specifically started getting taken more seriously. Distributors invested more money in it. Audiences started showing up for more titles. And creators started borrowing, sometimes heavily, sometimes subtly, from the groundwork that Ghost in the Shell laid down. Over the years, Ghost in the Shell has been constantly remixed, rebooted, and reinterpreted, sometimes with a lot of success, sometimes not so much. But its core questions have remained surprisingly consistent over the decades. Like, who are we when our bodies are no longer our own? Where does the self begin and end when the mind can be copied, hacked, or erased? I think that's probably why Ghost in the Shell still resonates. It's not just the slick visuals, the cyberpunk cool, or even the trailblazing animation, although those things certainly helped. It's the fact that it tapped into anxieties that feel even more relevant now than they did in 1995. Like back then, the internet was still a novelty. Today, we're uploading our entire lives to the cloud. We're talking to AI and wrestling with digital identities that are as real as the ones that we wear in the flesh.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that like that we're like so much more, like you said, in the cloud. We've got digital ghosts in like the I don't know, like in your fucking Google Docs and your playlists and group chats and like there's just like there's ways you still exist that people weren't contemplating back then.
Breadcrumbs, pieces of you that are just kind of scattered about the vast net, as they call it in Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ghost in the Shell imagined a future where the line between human and machine was blurred, and then it had the nerve to ask, should we even care about that line at all? I think that's what's so fascinating about it.
Yeah, it didn't even just blur like between human and machine. Like it was like I don't know. I think it blurred like genre and art kind of
Yeah.
like animation and like real cinema. Like you don't need live actors to be soulful. It's okay to have an animation that is slow and still and like just you could feel uncomfortable watching.
Well, I mean, they even proved that with hell the first half an hour of Wally. Like
Yeah.
you've got a little robot just rolling around doing things, and you feel for that robot.
Yeah, they created a personality with him.
Yeah.
For all of the iterations and adaptations that have followed, it's that original 1995 Ghost in the Shell film that endures. And not just because it looked cool, and obviously definitely looks cool, but because it trusted its audience to sit with uncertainty. It didn't explain everything, and it didn't offer any easy answers. And in doing so, in my opinion, it became one of the most important and influential anime films ever made.
And I don't think it even belongs. I mean, it doesn't because you just listed them earlier, but it's not even about like even one medium anymore. It's like it's gone across formats and now across like generations. And I don't know, that's a testament to it that it's not just even just a movie anymore.
No.
And it's like, and a real testament for me with movies now when I watch them is like, am I still thinking about this like days later?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And I am with this one.
Yeah.
So just like contemplating like all the stuff it said and how it felt watching it. So that means it's classic immediately.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for Ghost in the Shell, guys. Next time on the show, we are wrapping up our series on 1995 cyber thrillers with a film that is every bit as provocative and maybe even more unsettling. Strange Days, directed by Catherine Bigelow and co-written by James Cameron. It didn't just imagine a future saturated with voyeurism, violence, and tech addiction. It predicted it. It's set in the final days of 1999. It is if you haven't seen it, it is a wild, paranoid ride through a crumbling society where people relive other people's experiences like their mixtapes. Does that sound familiar? It bombed at the box office. It was misunderstood by critics, and yet somehow it might be the most prescient film of this entire bunch. So join us next time as we dig into the making and the unmaking of one of the most daring sci-fi thrillers of the 1990s with Strange Days.
Nice. It'll be a first watch for me. Yeah.
Well, it's been really hard to find for a lot of years, and it's still hard to find on Blu-ray. I had to get a bootleg of it, actually, to have a physical copy of it.
Same.
But it actually recently made its streaming debut. This is a movie from 30 years ago. It just made its streaming debut about a month ago on the Criterion Channel. So if you have
Nice.
Criterion Channel, you can watch it. Otherwise, it's pretty hard to find. But it is at least available now. So I'm sure James Cameron's tinkering with a 4K that he'll be working on for 12 years, and then eventually we'll get that.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we have for this one, fellas. You want to let our listeners know where you can be found on the internet?
I am at This Is Gary Horde, all spelled out.
You can find my Star Trek podcast at Computer Resume and all my D&D nerdiness at D's 20 Live. And I'm at Mr. Todd A. Davis on Instagram.
I'm at Justin_Bishop. The show is at cinema_shock on all the things, or head to cinemashock.net where you can find all of our stuff, episodes, show notes, merch, Discord. Join us on Discord. It's fun. I'm talking to you, Todd, actually.
Oh,
You should. It's fun. Join us on Discord. We got a really good community of movie nerds over there talking about all kinds of stuff. We talk about movies. We talk about comic books. We talk about, there's a sports section. There's a wrestling section. Like, it's not just refined to the stuff that we're talking about in the show. It's just like-minded people coming together to talk about all kinds of shit and post a lot of funny memes. Is what a lot of it is. So join us there. Head to cinemashock.net where you can find the link to that. You can also find a link to cinemashock.net where you can join and support the show and get all kinds of bonus stuff. And until next time,
May the wings of liberty never lose a feather.
and be excellent to each other.
I am not AI. My code name is JOHNNY. I am a living, thinking entity that was created to possess the keys.